All right, welcome everyone. I'm here with Dinuka Ranasinghe. I know how to say your name. Oh, it was so close. I was so Ranasinghe.
Ranasinghe.
I was so proud of myself. Ranasinghe. I really am disappointed because I was so proud of myself for knowing how to say your name. Okay.
That's so funny. And we've been talking for 30 minutes before this and you never asked.
I know. It happens every single time. As soon as I hit record, I don't ask. And then I mispronounce it a little bit. Okay. I'm not terrible, but I'm not great. Anyway, it's great to have you. And we're going to have a great conversation. And I always start by asking, it's 3:33, so this is a beautiful moment. I always start by asking people to share a little bit about themselves and rather than me reading the bio. So would you take a moment to share a little bit about yourself so that my audience can get to know you better?
Absolutely. First of all, my name is pronounced Ranasinghe. Okay.
Did I not say that? She's also my cheeky sister. That's what we've decided. So I told her if she gets to be a cheeky sister, she's in the highest light. So this is super fun.
Excellent. So I am originally Sri Lankan, born in England, grew up in Hong Kong, lived in Sri Lanka in between, back and forth. So I've had a mixture of identities and cultures and all of that. But that's not what I am, you see?
Yes,
this is how we came to the consciousness, right? No label.
Yeah.
But it's definitely helped me grow and see so many different perspectives. I am now, I'll work backwards actually. I am a conscious parenting coach, trained by Dr. Shafali in her institute. I am also a owner of a preschool in Long Beach, California called KidWorks Children's Center. So we work with children ages 3 to 5. I am also an immersion code energy healer.
Oh.
And I am a mom of 2 boys, 11 and 9. But I started off as a lawyer. I qualified in New York as an attorney in 2008. And so I was working as a legal recruiter just after I had passed the bar when I moved here to California. And I decided there's no way I'm taking another bar exam, especially not California.
Yeah, I've heard it's a really terrible one.
Brutal. But it teaches you so much. Other than the law and the theory, you learn so much about yourself. So everything is a learning process, right? But we fall into that matrix of, jobs are professions, and professions need to be doctor, lawyer, engineer, accountant. This is what kind of the belief system is in culture. But honestly, I did feel that I had an interest, but I was also labeled the argumentative one in the family, and therefore I should be a lawyer. The cheeky one, as you noted.
I see that.
So with that said, I did fall into doing law, but there was a part of me that just couldn't go any further. I was stuck. I was dead. I was beat.
Yeah.
And I remember I read the book by Robin Sharma, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Have you ever read that one?
No.
Oh, it's so good. I recommend that to anybody.
Okay.
So after reading that book, I woke up one morning, I put the book on my bedside table, and I went, that's it. I'm buying a preschool. That was it. I am buying a preschool. No experience in early childhood development. I loved children.
Yes.
I had worked with families, or my husband's family that owns lots of Montessori's in California. So I would go visit them. I would spend time with them. I would volunteer to read books with children. So it was an interest and a passion I had.
Yeah.
Who knew that this was what I would end up buying the business?
Yeah.
I mean, really? So I did. I looked for a school, walked into a school January 2nd. By March 17th, I was working there. We had bought the school, done all the paperwork. So I was working 2 jobs at the same time, doing the legal recruiting as well as school. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about owning a business. I knew nothing about early childhood development, apart from doing some early childhood units, right? Education units. But nothing could stop me. It was like this fire underneath me that just kept burning. Nothing was going to make me turn back. I don't even remember feeling any fear at that point, to be honest.
Yep.
Um, and it was just one step in front of the other. The obstacle I did face was when I was there, feeling unworthy of being there because I didn't have the experience.
Right.
And yet I was the owner. So how am I supposed to
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
without knowing? But now, so I've been on this journey for 12, 13 years now. And throughout this journey, I have learned so much from the teachers, so much from the parents, but most of all from the children, which is what then led me into conscious parenting, because I could see behaviors and attitudes of children directly related to how the parents were behaving.
Yep.
And it affecting them in school, yet at school they were a completely different personality. And we know that our children behave very differently.
Right, of course, yeah.
Anyone else. So that wasn't surprising. But there were so many links and so many observations I could make that then made me realize that, oh my gosh, all of this basically comes back down to connection.
Yes.
It was so simple. It seems so simple.
Right.
But it really isn't.
The concept is so simple.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you're running a business and when you're running a preschool, as you know, running a school, you have that responsibility of a philosophy and attitudes for the children. So it ripples down from
absolutely.
Not that it's hierarchical, but it does ripple down from your attitude to the teachers, then to the children. But every teacher's experience in life is so different.
Yep.
So how do you manage that, right? Unless you heal everybody and you try to
right.
conscious parenting and conscious living on everybody.
Right. Okay, so what's so cool about your story is I think we've had you were the first. I just remembered this. You were the first person. I was going to say this before we hit record, but I'll say it now. You were the first person when I had my intuitive call just to like start doing recordings. And it's such a great story because I was working on starting a podcast and it took me a year to do the like packaged podcast. And I hired a coach, this really cool guy named Paul Stennett. He's in Jamaica, but he works with all the clients in the US. So if you want to live in a really cool place and have all your clients in US and Canada, you can follow Paul and his wife because they have shown us how to do this. They're actually Jamaican, but like you can go live in a cool country. And I was telling him like, you're a good example of how you can live in a cool country and run your business from virtually. But I was working with him and then I was like, oh, I just want to start interviewing people in the Facebook group. And you were the first one. It was probably like March 15th or something. And, we had a great conversation. And it was so funny because I ended up interviewing like 40 people in 3 months. Wow. And I kept telling people, gosh, I really want to start this podcast. And they're like, aren't you interviewing people? Like I was doing 3 a day sometimes. My friends are like, you're interviewing 3 people a day? I'm like, yeah, it was so much fun. And then I'm like, but I'm working on this podcast. And they're like, wait, didn't you say that you're interviewing people? I'm like, but it's not a podcast. Like, oh, okay. So it's like when your mind catches up with your intuition. So like you decided to start a preschool because you knew that was your path. Right. But the mind would be like, why would I start a preschool in like 6 weeks when I have another job and I'm not an expert in a preschool? And this is why when we let the mind drive the car and the fear and the ego, we don't go and start a preschool. And this conversation would be like, hey, how was your 30 years in being a lawyer? And how many heart attacks have you had? And how gray is your hair? But instead, we're talking about how
it's not a real job.
Exactly.
Talking to people and having fun doing it. Really, you're not suffering enough for it to be a job.
Why am I not suffering? Yeah, this can't be real. This is actually the opposite. Reality is not this. This is all an illusion. So why don't we just have fun with the video game while we're at it? Right. Why don't we have fun in this game of life?
Yeah, and following your intuition and not having the conditioned beliefs that it needs to be hard. Life is hard. That's what we've been told all our lives.
Yes.
Yes, it's hard, and I did have many obstacles pitfalls where I thought, oh my God, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't stop me. I
Yeah.
kept going. So it's not that it isn't hard, but
No.
it's
It's a
like
different kind of hard, right? Yeah.
yeah. And it's like we're searching for hard
Mm-hmm.
because that makes it real. That makes it a
Yeah.
real job. Because
Right.
I mean, when you think back at school,
Mm-hmm.
and again, we're conditioned to homework, work,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, get through
Yep.
it, do. So the enjoyment is sucked out of it. So then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, our jobs have to be something where the enjoyment is sucked out of.
Of course, yeah. We wouldn't be able to have fun.
Right, right.
That's not real
Having
life.
fun, you'd feel guilty for actually having fun.
Yes. Yes. And then your story about finding the book. I had a book in 2004 by Martha Beck called Find Your Own North Star. And I had a similar experience in that I basically found the book. I was okay, we didn't know this parallel path. We're finding this out. If we did, I already forgot. But my wife was we were living in the Bay Area. We met in college at UC Berkeley, and my wife was I was going to grad school in Washington, DC. And I wanted to move to Washington, DC to go into politics. So I was like, oh, this is wonderful. So she goes to grad school, and then I'm like, actually, I want to be a lawyer. And so I decided to become a lawyer. And while she was like waiting to go to grad school, I did all the applications, I got everything ready to go. And then I took the LSATs, and I got in the 14th, I scored in the 14th percentile on the actual real thing. The week before I was in like the 85th, but something happened to me in the moment. The universe was like, we're not letting you do this, buddy. You're going to just totally bomb the LSAT so that you can't go forward. But then I was like, well, I'm going to go to DC and like retake it and figure out. And then I started temping in like small firms, big firms, like, advocacy nonprofits. And I was like, you can't see my face if you're listening, but my face is like, what is going on here? I can't do this. and so then I found that book, Finding Your Own North Star. And I actually read the whole thing at like a Borders in the corner of 17th and L in Washington, DC, back when they had those Borders. And I read the whole thing cover to cover in like 8 hours until they kicked me out. And I read the whole entire book, and it was basically saying like, find your North Star and go for it. And so that day I decided I'd be a teacher. Right. And everyone's like, how could you have a job 2 blocks from the White House where the president has an account at a bank? Because at that point I actually had a really good job. And like, you're going to leave Washington, DC to go work in Oakland and have a salary of $32,000 a year. Like, this just makes no sense at all. Mm-hmm. Like, why would you start a preschool and you had a law degree and you would pass the bar?
Yep.
That's insanity.
And I was making no money in the preschool.
Yeah, right. It's not profitable.
Yes.
At least I was making 32,000. What were you doing? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was negative 32,000.
Right. So what kept you going? Like, what kept you from not kind of buying into that conditioning and being like, wait, I should just go find what just kept you from not, like, why did you keep going? I'm just so curious.
To this day, 13 years, I don't think I've ever thought, okay, I need to stop. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it is. It's just, actually, no, I will tell you what it is. It is that I am constantly learning. It never stays the same when you own your own business.
Yes.
But in leadership, you learn so much about yourself.
Yes.
Right? Like, why am I so triggered by that employee not following what I'm asking them to do?
Right.
Why is it that I have a hard time imposing this boundary?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why is it that I'm procrastinating on sending these newsletters? I don't know. It could be so many things.
Yep.
But it's a whole learning curve on how you deal with people. And it never got boring. And one day was never the same as the next. And as 2020 will show you, this year has been completely different, and a completely different experience in teaching and having a preschool. Yeah. Amidst the pandemic. So it never got boring. It was up to me, in a way, to keep that alive and keep the learning going. Yes. But you see how that trajectory had changed from owning the preschool. I was in it for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I handed over to someone I completely trusted as the
Yeah.
director. I
When
promoted
did
it.
you do that?
I did that 4 years ago, I think it was.
Okay. Okay.
So 4 years ago, but I waited until I knew that this person, I had the right person to direct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I knew that my energy was going
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So again, watching yourself and how you feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
listening to the intuition. So I appointed her. She moved back to Ohio. So then I had hired someone else,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't work out. So I went back
Oh,
in
okay.
being director again, which was so great. And I did not look back again. I enjoyed being there. I was like, oh my gosh, I missed this. I missed being
Okay.
yeah, it was, everything was joyful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that looking at the majority of my time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's this feeling from your gut that you just don't question.
Yes.
And being back, building the relationships with the teachers again, just having connection with the teachers. But this time I was coming back with a consciousness
Yes.
that I hadn't had before. So I came back and I started wanting to change things around,
Yep.
which was again a challenge.
Yep.
Because my philosophy has now changed. I've become this conscious parent, and now I want to see more connection.
Right.
I want to see adults heal before we teach
Yes.
children.
Yep.
And I'm seeing that all these boundaries, all these rules, all these militant ways that schools have, bells like Pavlov's dog, we don't need to have these. So I was bringing a different touch to the school. And then at that point, again, I brought it to a certain point where I felt now I'm comfortable again to call in another director. And David, that day I sat down, I put an ad out. It was exactly this time last year, and we were in winter break. And I hadn't, that so many resumes came through Indeed.com. You can hundreds.
Oh, I've done that before. It's really overwhelming on the other end. Yeah.
So overwhelming. And so you've got my ad was for a preschool director, but I have Rite Aid managers applying for jobs. So, I stopped looking at resumes.
Yeah.
So for a few months, I just didn't look. One day I was sitting in my chair and I was just scrolling through my emails. I was like, oh, let me open this one. Oh my goodness. She is the one I hired. We connected. I met her over the break, hired her in February. I'm going to tell you a really interesting story. At the interview, after the interview, we were at the door and I was saying goodbye. And she said, oh my gosh, Dinuka, 1 minute. I have to give you something. I got you something. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And so she pulls out 3 rocks. I think they might even be here. I can't remember, but I have them. But 3 rocks.
Okay.
And if you know me, I love rocks.
Oh, wow.
I have rocks all over my house because I love them. I love them so much. My dog has this energy of loving my rocks that she comes and sleeps in front of me. Back with my dog. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so that in itself spoke to me, and I have no idea. And I asked her, I said, why did you do that? How did you know I liked what? She said, I don't know. I love rocks and I just thought I would give you rocks. I don't know. I left the house and this is what came to me. And so those kind of signs, when you see them and connect them, like on a normal day, I may not have, I would have gone, okay, nuts, crazy.
Right, bringing rocks to an interview.
Why do you bring rock, right? But it meant so much, and that connection was made. And I think that was the sign and the binding force that, again, I haven't looked back. And she's been an absolute gem. So when we talk about being in alignment with ourselves, when we are in alignment with ourselves, everything that is in alignment with you falls into place.
Yes.
So people who come into your life are then in alignment.
Yes.
Look for her.
No.
It was,
and you had thousands of resumes, right? But this is the one that you looked at. Yeah.
Only resume I looked at.
Okay. So you realize that you are really, I want to highlight 2 like really beautiful spiritual teachings that you just shared through your experience. So number 1 is when we're running our Inner Sangha series right now with our small group of 13 people, and it's like not a mastermind, but a master heart, you know, like a small group of entrepreneurs and healers and leaders that are doing all these cool things. And we asked them in the second week, we just got the intuition, asked them, what is it that you want to let go of? This was like probably early October with like, I think there was a new moon or something. Everyone's like letting go of stuff. So we just asked them like, what do you want to let go of? And we told them, let go of it for like 2 weeks and then come back to it and see if you still want to have it in your life. And this is how I actually stopped drinking alcohol. Not this time, but last time. I did it by accident, in that I was like going through all this spiritual stuff and I was really feeling like getting into better physical shape and, you know, eating healthier. And I was like, why am I drinking? Like, I'm not even really that into it anymore, but I just do it for social reasons or whatever, or because I did it every day when I got home at, you know, 5 o'clock after a long day. So I was like, let's watch that consciously. So I just stopped drinking for like, I thought it was gonna be a week. And the next thing I know, it'd been like a year and a half. And then people are like, why don't you? And then I started noticing that when I'd go to a conference or go see friends, especially with men, you know, hanging out with men, they're like, oh, there's a beer. And I'd be like, and I'm British, so I was a drinker. Okay. So like, this is a big identity for me. It wasn't just like, I didn't drink before. No, I used to drink a lot. Like my parents were worried about me in my 20s, like way too much. And so people would be like, who are you? Like, what happened to the guy who was like pounding back beers, you know? And I'm like, I'm just not interested anymore. And then a year ago, so I haven't had a drink. I've had one drink in 2.5 years. A year ago, our friends were coming for Thanksgiving. And I was like, how do I not have a drink during Thanksgiving? Like, it just doesn't feel right. So I was like, oh, I think I'll have a drink. So I had like one anchor scene while they were having wine or drinking or something, one beer. And I literally was like, when you were like, have your first drink when you're, we'll say when you're 21, in case there's, you know, I know some of my younger friends are listening, but you know, when you're probably 15 and you steal your parents' alcohol, like you remember, you kind of feel dizzy and you pass out and you're like, just, you're like this, and you're going to throw up, like, you feel terrible. So I did, you have no idea. So I literally felt that way. I'm sitting with our friends during Thanksgiving and I'm like, I'm ready to pass out from like half a beer. And then I finished the beer because I'm like, let's see what it's like. And the next morning I had a splitting headache. I couldn't do my exercise. All I wanted to do was eat like fried food. And I'm like, I don't need this anymore. So anyway, so your story about the preschool, I thought you were going to share the most recent departure or hiring a director, because we had talked about that. Because I was sharing that I wanted to pass my charter school on to the principal and make her executive director. And we probably only talked on the phone like 3 or 4 times. And that was one of our conversations. I don't know what we were talking about, but then you were sharing like, I'm ready to kind of release that attachment of the preschool. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready too, because I know there's an expansion coming. But the fact that you left and came back and then you saw it through a conscious lens, like that's a real big spiritual teaching. And I just had my coaching call with my coach that I've worked with for 5 years. She's a Martha Beck coach. And that was her advice to me. She's like, you're feeling this thing around rejection or something. Or she was saying that I was creating a story around attracting or rejecting certain types of people. And she's like, what if you just let go of that for like a couple weeks? The story of like attraction and rejection. And I was like, that's the spiritual concept. Like that's the teaching. You let go of it. You come back to it with a conscious lens and you see if you are interested. And people in our group, they've quit coffee, they've quit drinking, they stopped the whatever pattern of codependency. And they're like, we're just not interested anymore. Like we're not interested. Like it's a totally different lens.
Right. Yeah. And you know, when I went back, I had kind of given up on finding somebody because I was really happy in my role.
Yeah.
I was so happy to be back and be around people and be around adults and children, and practice what I had been doing. So I wasn't putting all of my effort
Right
into it. It's kind of, I think the word has to be surrender.
Yes.
Surrender. Let it go.
Yes.
And
Yes. 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 That's it. And the other really beautiful spiritual concept, spiritual teaching that you shared is when you really are doing the work. And I want to hear about like what you've done over the years, like, you know, how you've gotten to this point in your life, because I feel like when you reach a certain point on your spiritual journey, that you start attracting in, because everything's a mirror. So you're going to attract whatever pattern you need to work on right in front of you. So like when I first hired people at my school, it was like codependent. It was codependent central. Like everybody that worked there was like, he's gonna save me. And it was just like all this pattern of me trying to save everybody and be the social worker for everybody. And then all the teachers were embodying that. And I was like, oh gosh, this is not the school I want to run, because the teachers aren't empowered and they're constantly, and so it was like so clear. And then we had to go through this whole really painful process of nobody was like actually fired. They quit because we started setting really clear boundaries. Like Shefali says, you look at what you've co-created and then you start saying no and setting boundaries, and then people start acting like 5-year-olds. And so that's what happened. And it was really painful. It was like most painful 6 months of my professional life. It was like all these excited people that had joined a new school. And then I was like, hey, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
And they're like, what? And then they all quit. And, but what you're sharing is when you can really, when you're really doing the work, then somebody like this director that when you told me on the phone and I felt your energy, you said, I'm ready to expand in some ways, shape or form. You're like, something's coming my way. And I know that right now, the day-to-day of the preschool is holding me back. And this is not going to be I want to get rid of this. It was just, I know that it's time for me to let go of something with the preschool and pass it on. And then I know there's so many more things opening up for me. And both of us, we had that call. It was probably like, I don't know, more than a year ago. Well, you did it a year ago. So
I think it was, yeah. Because this was when I found her a year ago. Yeah. It was more than a year. It was after an Evolve, I think.
Okay. But we talked shortly after Evolve because I had seen you at Evolve. Both times we had a fortuitous encounter. Like we just ran into each other.
Yes.
The first time you almost literally ran me over in your car when I was walking out of the hotel.
You jumped in front of my car because you wanted to.
She almost killed me, for the record. Is this recording? She almost killed me.
Yeah,
and then the second
time, see, that's the road. My head comes up to the road.
And then the second time, you were in front of me in line on the first time. I'm like, what? And then I said your name, Dinuka, because somebody that won't be named was pronouncing your name in a course that we were in. Dinuka. So then I was like, I don't want to say her name wrong. That's another theme, me saying your name wrong. And I said, is it Dinuka or Dinuka? Because our very conscious friend that you're taking a course with is calling you Dinuka. And you're like, no, God bless her. It's not. It's Dinuka. Okay, so what's opened up? So I have two curiosities. Number one, like, I know it's hard to say what work you've done, but I'd just be curious to hear about like the journey you've gotten to a place where you can just, basically look at one resume and it's the exact person that's going to bring you a rock that like that's just the universe working for you. And then also, well, let's just do that one. We'll do that one. Like, what is it that,
I really think it's not having an expectation of anything. Mm-hmm. So, which also means then that you don't have a fear of getting it wrong.
Right.
Right? Because then you put so much effort into follow your intuition. Okay, Dinuka, now follow your intuition. So much so that you put this expectation that, okay, the next one I open has to be right, which means that when you do get it wrong, then you're suffering because you've set the expectation of having to get it right.
Yes.
So if you surrender, like I said,
yes,
then you surrender to also being perfect.
Yes.
And before that, I had made a hire that wasn't right, but I didn't kick myself about it. It was just not the right thing. And I had to learn that to know then what was the right fit.
Exactly.
So no fear of getting it wrong.
Yes.
Is, I think, the trick.
So you've learned how to surrender. You've learned how to do the work like on a regular basis. I know you do. Because I've been in the courses with you, so I know you're doing it. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it really gives me peace to be able to be in the now and come back to the now. And sometimes teachers would say, okay, Dinuka, what do you think about this? Can we do this? Or they'll come up with something. And rather than giving an immediate answer, if it's not sitting quite, it's, a harder decision that I have to make, then I'll say, give me a minute. I need to go and meditate on this. So they're all thinking, woo,
Yep.
But I really do. I go and I sit at home and I just sit with it in silence so the thoughts are they're going back and forth,
Yeah.
and then, oh, this one. But I can see that, oh, that's my conditioned self. That's the fear.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
the past. This is the future. I'm watching those, but then I'm coming back to the now. What is it that I need to do now? And
Yes.
how am I feeling in my body now?
Yep.
Does it make me feel expansive? Does it make me feel contracted? How does it feel?
Yes.
And when
Yes.
I pay attention to that, the
Mm-hmm.
answer is there. And sometimes it can be 5 minutes, sometimes it can be 5 hours. I don't know.
Exactly.
Um,
This
that's
is
how
what yes. No, this is what we've been talking about every day in our inner Sangha, through the Voxer conversation and the Telegram and the weekly time when we get together. It's like, how do we get back to the now? How do we get back to the present moment? And whatever's distracting you from the present moment, then how do we help you just stop that pattern or stop that, look, what if you're in the now moment, the guidance is going to come. And it's going to say, go do an inner child healing, go talk to that person, go meditate here, go to the mountain. It's just going to tell you, but until you get into the present moment, you're not going to have the clarity. And so we feel like we're repeating ourselves over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Or like, it's not that complicated. It's actually that simple. Like you were saying earlier about the connection, the concept is simple. Doing it is the hard part, the application, the embodiment, right?
Yes, is the embodiment, is the doing. It's sort of like, the parent who's watching their child on a soccer field and yelling from the sidelines, run, kick the ball, like shouting at the kid, because it looks so much easier from the sidelines, but this parent has never played soccer in their life, right? So until they get on the field and do it, then they see how difficult it is. So that's what needs to happen in consciousness. And this is why I think a lot of people can sometimes shy away, because you actually have to do the work. And what we say is, I'm a terrible salesperson, because I say to them, you know what, this is painful.
It'd be treacherous.
It's awful. You have to unlayer and you sit with the pain. I'm thinking, who the hell wants to pay me money to do this, right? Like,
yes. Yeah.
But it is worth it at the end of it. You come out of it with so much clarity.
Yes.
And one of the things, David, that I learned for myself was that I got better at imposing boundaries for myself.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because I was the people pleaser. I had to
me too.
If the teacher wasn't happy, the child wasn't happy, the parent wasn't happy, I had to please every single person.
No, this was my codependent central that I created. So yeah, we're in the same page. Page.
And so I came back to it with clarity, with the boundaries, like you said, and then people will fall off little by little. But that's okay, because you're finding the right people, and that's in our lives in consciousness now. You notice that not every friend is in alignment with you, and they may think you're cuckoo, and that's okay.
Because and you can love them from far away.
You're trying. Cuckoo-ness.
Okay, so here's the other thing. I have seen your transformation. I've witnessed it I've known you for a few years because we did our course together a few years ago, but I didn't really know you that well. And then I want to share how I always use you as an example, as someone who I think is really like living authentically through their business. And then I think through that, I want to hear like what's opened up for you since you took the step to say like, this is my baby, this is my preschool, like this is a thing that I followed the intuition, like this was born out of essence, like my school. It's not like you just, so it wasn't your 9-to-5 job that you just did because you wanted the paycheck. So to step away from that is a courageous choice. Like in my men's group, there's men that are leaving marriages, and in our other group, there's people that are, leaving jobs, and they're making these courageous choices, and then things start to open up. So all the treacherous pain that you go through, I'm like, now let's look what's happening to her. It is worth it. I'm seeing your transformation. So the story I want to share is, I saw you start your Facebook group.
Yes.
And I watched the energy, because that's all I do now. I don't even know if I watched you talk for more than a minute. Don't tell Dinuka, but I don't think I watched any of the things she said. But I didn't need to, because I just would open it up and I'd look at it and I'm like, whoa, okay, she's on fire. And I'm like, and I told myself I'd go back, but I was like, but I read the energy right away. I'm like, she is on fire. And then I saw you went from like 20 to 100 and whatever in your group in like a day or two. And I'm like, that is how you do it, because that's authenticity, and people are attracted to the real person. And in 2020, 2021, no one wants the formulas and the old stuff and you do this and you say this and none of that stuff works anymore. It's just not going to work. They want authenticity. They want you to be real. So how did you have the courage and the confidence and just to show up on the Facebook lives and be like, you were amazing. I don't blow smoke. I don't even do ego anymore. So I'm not blowing smoke. You were amazing. I'm like, she's on fire. Everything she's learned is coming through her. She is floating in that room.
Right. You know, going live and being in front of a camera was my biggest fear. It was the last thing I would ever have done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was put up to the challenge where I would do Facebook Lives for 7 days in a group. So it was private. You can even create your own fake group. Don't tell Facebook. I don't know whether you're allowed to. But anyway.
Don't worry.
Yeah. And you just go on and start talking, right? Talk about anything. It's okay.
Yes.
And so facing the fear. I think that's what the trick was.
Yes.
But David, now I can't go back. I love them so much because I realized that I can just speak, and I didn't know that I could.
Right.
I had no idea I had it in me to speak, to have any wisdom, to be honest, and talk about anything that anyone would be interested in. And the reason I do it live, not pre-recorded, is because if I did it pre-recorded, my ego and my vanity would take me.
Yes. And you might never actually publish it or whatever. Yeah. Oh, that's good right there too. Okay. So
doing the lives, I show up authentically. I don't prepare. I don't have notes.
I can tell. I know all of these things.
Right? Because
I can tell.
But I think what's really important is having the silence and the time to be with yourself.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time, and I was just telling Dr. Shafali this the other day, and she told me to work on it. But it was the fact that I constantly want wisdom teaching. I want to hear everybody. I want to learn from everybody all the time.
Yes.
So therefore, I'm not giving myself ever any time for my own thoughts, because it's not like I'm repeating what they're saying. I'm actually living it.
Yeah.
And so I've got Kyle Cease, I've got Kate Northrup, I've got Dr. Shafali, the Dalai Lama, like many different people that I follow.
Yes. No, those are beautiful names. Wow.
Right. And then when you embody it, it's your own experience. So what comes out of my mouth is truly my own experience. Yes. I'm not really repeating what they're saying because I've got a combination of it.
Exactly.
And the embodiment of it, like me being on the soccer field, is what's happening, right?
Yes.
So that's how it shows up. But you have to allow yourself, and especially as women, we don't give ourselves and honor the fertile void, as Kate Northrup would call it, to just sit in it. And Kyle Cease will say 1 hour a day. Do it for 21 days, 30 days, 1 hour a day. Force yourself to sit there in meditation in silence. And things will just align.
They do. They do. You and I are here to say that that's absolute truth. And, you know, I love that story on so many levels because I also have a massive fear of public speaking, and everyone's like, oh, what? You're a white guy. Don't you just talk whenever you want? I'm like, well, I'm a white guy, but I'm like, you know, I had a lot of trauma. So I wasn't able to really grow into this white guy domination thing until I got a little bit older, you know, but no, so like I have this massive fear of public speaking. And so I just started doing lives on my Facebook page, anything. And it was like so terrifying, and people wouldn't show up, like no one would ever come. And I remember my friend saying like, you know what, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Because are you in love with the process right now? Like, are you in love with the fact that your intuition is telling you to go on and do a live? Because I would just follow the guidance. If the guidance told me, go do a live in the group, I would just do it. And it would come in a meditation, it'd be like, say these 4 things. And I'd always be terrified. Like, I had to do it within a minute after the meditation, because if I waited, like your story about, if I waited 10 minutes, I wouldn't do it. And so I would just go on, and it was so terrifying. And then people always say, well, I can't believe you were ever scared of public speaking. So when you said doing a live was your biggest fear, I'm like, really? Because when I witnessed your energy, you were on fire and you were attracting people so quickly. But what you're saying is you're really spending the time to really be in the stillness, to follow your process, your truth. And you probably weren't totally obsessed with, when I go live, I want to see a bunch of people saying that I'm amazing, and I want 10 people to sign up for my program right away. Like, you probably weren't obsessed with the outcomes. You just wanted to do it, right?
And I'll tell you honestly, when I did that 5-day free workshop, I went on not expecting to make any sales. I wasn't prepared for it, to be honest.
You weren't even ready.
I wasn't even ready. I was doing it because I wanted to test myself.
Yeah, it was just like the process. Yeah.
Yes, the process. And because there's so many logistics, right? Behind
oh my gosh,
landing pages, registration pages, sales pages.
Drives me crazy.
All of that stuff, algorithms,
yes.
things I didn't know about, which is why I had to test it and do the live to see whether I could get it all together, just formulate and become familiar with running a 5-day workshop.
Yeah.
Little did I think about the sale at the end of it. And at the end of it, I ended up with 2 clients and I didn't expect that. So yeah, it was kind of letting go of the outcome. But that's also, again, a lesson in consciousness is you accept the as is, which means that you detach from any outcome.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so you decided so you went back to giving the preschool, you had a director. So now you're doing these cool things. So you're a conscious parent coach. You are running programs, sounds like. You can tell us a little bit about the program you're about to launch. This is a great opportunity. Share with us.
Thank you. So it's a 3-month program where I basically handhold the client because transformation is hard. Like I said, this is a terrible sales pitch, but you will go through pain. You will go through pain, but the transformation happens. And this happens because we do need to change the generations to come. And the generations to come can only be healed when we have been healed. And, you know, a lot of us think, I had a great childhood. I really did. I honestly can tell you I had a great childhood. Yet, there are so many little nuances that we don't realize where trauma is attached.
Right.
One tiny little comment that a friend said to you when you were in school. Oh, the other thing that Dr. Shefali had to go at me about was the...
Do you see her? Do you do sessions with her? When is she doing this?
Through our alumni group.
Oh, I was like, wow, you're in there. You're in it with her.
Right. And I obviously keep raising my hand, which is silly of me because then I keep getting picked on. No, she doesn't. I keep asking for help because I'm showing up because I really genuinely need the help.
Yeah, of course.
But I said, you know, I feel annoying. Sometimes I feel like I am being a nuisance to people when I'm selling. And she said, well, you need to go figure out where that comes from. And, you know, and so I did. And I realized that, oh my gosh, this was when we were playing a game and we were in the closet and no one wanted to be on my team. No one wanted me on their team.
Right. No, it's real.
So it could be tiny little things like that that can actually create trauma that we don't realize. It's this adult belief system.
Exactly.
So for anyone who thinks that my childhood was great, I don't need any coaching, you may show up differently for your children because of that, right? Or in your job or in other relationships, you may react differently. So anyway, that program is a 3-month, 12 weeks of intense work that I'll do meditations, journal entries, lots of exercises to really break it down and deconstruct, learn how to deconstruct, because once you've learned it, there's no undoing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like, you know, the consciousness, once you become conscious, you can't undo it.
You can't undo it. Yeah.
Ooh, I don't think I agree with that. Ooh.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Ooh, can't be your friend anymore, you know?
Exactly.
So you start losing friends. But that's the 3-month program. And on top of that, I'm doing another workshop called, it's a webinar, 1-day event, 1-hour event, actually, maybe 2, on the 21st of January, and that is called Building an Anti-Racist Generation. And this is huge for me, having a preschool, having children whose mindsets are formulating, and again, behaviors, belief systems are formulating. It's really important that we bring this to light and actually do the anti part of it.
Yes.
In the anti-biases. So that's my next.
That is so critical. And I know you're in Long Beach, so that's a beautiful place to be doing that type of work. But it's a virtual event, I'm assuming.
Yes.
I mean, what is it? That was a stupid question. What is it virtual anymore?
Everything's virtual.
Okay. And so one of the things I wanted to share that I thought was really cool. So we'll put that in the show notes about the anti-racist workshop, and also where people can find you if they want to do conscious parenting coaching, and then anything about your program, we can put that all in there. Because I only actually really want to share people's work that I really believe in. Like, that's all I'm going to do. I can't do this fake thing. Like, you're not going to be on the podcast if I don't believe in your work, because then I have to share it. So I really believe in your work because I can see your energy. I know you've done the work. And one of the things I said to you before we started recording is that I can see your confidence is a little bit different than some other people that maybe are jumping out into like coaching and life coaching and entrepreneurialism, because you did run the preschool, because I can see that like you've run the business before. Because what I'm seeing with a lot of people is that they're nervous about, so when you said about, you know, being a nuisance or annoying with people, when we were trying to get our programs together, I say we, because Stacey, Luann and I are doing 2 programs, but it's like you feel like you're being pesky. But what I realized is if I followed intuitive guidance, then I wouldn't let my mind convince me that I was being pesky. Like, I would just, because it's like, oh, energetically, I think I should reach out to that person. Energetically, I should reach out to that person. And then immediately I let go of any outcome or attachment to them saying yes, no, throwing, you know, a tomato in my face, or saying, why would you ever charge that? Like, the mind will come up with, oh, a lot of stories like, well, who are you to think you can do that? And why do you, oh, and blah, blah. And like, and so I just let all that go. And then what I see is like, I know that the way you found the director and the way that I found my principal, the right people are going to come exactly in. And with our group in the Inner Sangha, it could not be any more perfectly guided, the exact right people, the exact right moment. But we did have to do we had to take a lot of action, as I'm sure you will, to fill your program and to get your clients. You can't just sit back and like wait for, you know, God and the universe just to hand you.
Absolutely. It's
not
not like
do it, right?
silent home and then it's there. No,
Yeah.
It doesn't fall in the lap. It does take work, but the work is so authentic that it doesn't feel so grueling. You do come across triggers, you come across fears, the lives. Oh my gosh, the technology part of it, totally overwhelming.
Yeah, overwhelming. It's a lot.
But that made me do deeper work on me.
Exactly.
Right? And so every obstacle that I am faced with, I end up doing breath work. I end up doing more meditations. I do sound bath meditations, and my self-care is so on top with my energy.
Yeah.
So I make sure that those things are set in order to be able to expand. And I know that the expansion will come with some pain again. Right? So being prepared for it and balancing that out. But I also noticed that the more I'm expanding, the more I'm taking care of myself. I've been eating healthy. I've been exercising more. It's sort of like, losing weight. You want to lose weight so it will make you feel good, but you can't lose weight until you feel good. Do you know what I mean? It kind of double whammy. So you do have to feel good about yourself to want to lose weight and work out. So that's where I am. The expansion has really helped with feeling good.
Yeah. And what you're describing is like every obstacle, quote unquote, is just the universe pointing you in the exact direction of what you need to work on next. Absolutely. And so as you go through your conscious journey, this podcast is called A Conscious Way Forward. And that, of course, came to me intuitively, because I don't know how to do anything else anymore without following intuition, like titles, programs, everything's just what intuition tells me. But it's about this year of 2020 being so, and by the way, this is coming out on December 30th. So I told Dinuka that no pressure. She's gonna be the last guest in 2020. So it's like, just summarize the whole year. It's just like another year, right? Like, what's the big deal? And she said that would be fine.
No pressure.
She's gonna do that for the last 32 seconds. It's not gonna be a problem at all.
Come on with a clown outfit.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. 2020 as a clown. But yeah, so basically this year is really about, we have to move forward consciously, and it's happening. And so to have people like you doing the work and to show us what it looks like to say, like, I actually my mind is blown by the fact that you were scared of doing Facebook Lives. Because all I do is see people in the highest light. So I'm like, well, Dinuka could be like, doing a presentation to the whole world. Like, I see her in this high light. So I'm like, you're scared. She's like, wow. So you're scared of Facebook Lives? I can't even believe it. It's just like, wow. But I love that you're so honest and vulnerable. And you're like, yeah, I was.
And I love your conscious way forward, David, because I remember when I was 16, 17, I did the base camp of Mount Everest. And
Ooh.
it was the most amazing experience. But of course, at the time, I thought, why the hell did I spend all this money to do this and suffer and, have to go to the toilet in a hole on the side of the mountain?
Yes.
All of those things. And it was treacherous. I mean, I say it was treacherous, but we had Sherpas carrying our bags. So it was
Right.
I mean, it was hard, yes.
Yeah.
But I remember them saying 1 foot ahead of the other,
Mhm.
1 foot at a time. That
Yep.
one step is getting you closer to where we
Yes.
need to go, to the 14,000 feet.
Yes.
So
That's it. That's life.
that is life. And this is if you just 1 foot
Mhm.
at a time. That's it.
Chop wood and carry water. That's the Buddhist concept, right? You're just literally chopping wood and carrying water every day. It's just like doing it really with a lot of presence, a lot of awareness, and next thing you know, you're at the top of Mount Everest.
Right.
There you go.
Yep.
See, so you nailed this. You did really well for the last interview of 2020.
Woohoo!
I think we'll even publish it. I think we will. I don't know. I might change my mind if I wait too long.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
This has been I have laughed the most in this one. So clearly when I was younger, I really wanted to be a stand-up comedian. So you're bringing out the stand-up comedian in David, because I am laughing a lot in this one. Okay.
But it's mutual for me as well. I feel so free with you that I can just flow. I flow.
Yes, it's just flow.
It's
just flow.
effortless.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm still tapping Dinuka and being, not still, but a while back, I was like, intuition told me I'm supposed to do something with you. And I had an idea of different things that didn't come together. But when you're really tapping into your intuition, it's working in non-linear time.
Yes.
So Dinuka and I were like, oh, I thought I was supposed to do it with her 6 months ago, but it could be 6 years or 6 minutes from now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're both just really open to whatever the project's going to be. So be on the lookout, because at some point in 6 minutes or 6 years from now, Dinuka and I are doing something together.
Right.
And it's not my fault if you have to wait 6 years. Sorry, I can't give you the actual date. All right, well, any final thoughts before we wrap up the last podcast of 2020? No pressure. If it's not like going to change the whole world in 32 seconds, I'll just delete it. But no, just kidding. What would you like to share for your last?
What would I like to share? I think the 2 things.
Yeah.
That the only certainty is uncertainty.
Yes.
And to really be in the now. Come back to the now always.
Yes.
Your breath is always with you, and that is always in the now.
Yes.
And yeah, that's my advice.
That is really concise. And whenever we do our messages back and forth audio on Facebook, I always use the whole minute, and she comes back in like 12 seconds. So thank you for that. This could have been the whole interview. You just saying what you just said. So for someone who just said they don't see themselves as being very wise, you just proved yourself wrong. You are very wise, and you can do it. And my friend, who's a math teacher, would always get annoyed at the English teachers and say, the word to meaning ratio with those English teachers is just pathetic. Like, the dog is blue, and it took them 482 words to say that. I could have just said it. So I admire you for your concise use of words, and it's been a pleasure having you. I know people will love this conversation, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, David. This is always
Absolutely.
so much fun.
So much fun. All right.